Hi, and thank you for joining us here at Semiconductor 360. I'm Paul Gibson, one of the co-founders of Agile Analog and VP of Sales from 2019. As you are here, you, like us, are interested in access to analog functionality. We started Agile Analog because we are passionate about analog and solving the problems we experienced in getting the analog IP we needed in previous lives. In the coming few minutes, I'll explain how Agile Analog can help you and your company get access to analog IP the way you want it. In a world where analog IP is being integrated into more and more SoCs by companies big and small, the challenge is, how do you get access to the right high quality analog IP that exactly matches your specification at the right time for your project's timeline, on the exact process you need, and for the right cost? And perhaps more importantly, with the flexibility your team requires. Answering these questions is difficult, particularly when access to analog IP has not kept pace with the industry's needs. For example, the difference between advances in digital design and analog have been stark for a long time. For many reasons, there are not enough analog engineers, and the gap between the numbers we have and those we'll need is only increasing. Similarly, the development of analog tools has not kept up with those in the digital domain. The combination of these facts has led to an increasing problem for the many companies, product managers and design teams looking to integrate analog on chip. And as many analog providers have integrated or migrated towards a very high ASP end of the analog complexity range, getting access to the exact analog IP your design needs is increasingly difficult. Given this, perhaps it's not surprising it's reported that some 85 to 90% of issues in mixed signal SoCs originate in the analog IP. And that's not because the analog designers can't design. No, these guys are usually analog experts, but the processes and infrastructures to support them are frequently not as they should be. But now, it is our intent that the world of analog IP is about to change. Over 8 years have been spent automating our analog flow to a very high degree. As we shall see, from an agreed specification, we can generate a design for you from one of the many well-proven architectures and on most bulk and FinFET processes very quickly. Let's look at why and how. For the why, well, the drive for integration is relentless for a whole host of reasons. For example, reducing power, component count, area. To interface with the real world, the need to have the right analog IP has never been more important to allow that integration. No more so there than at the edge, where power and area are critical concerns, and both sensors and compute are becoming increasingly capable and complex. Many companies are moving previously unheard of capabilities to the edge, and that frequently requires yet more analog. But the increasing integration of even more standard functions such as PMUs, BIST ADCs and DACs, temperature sensors, and others is driving a further huge increase in analog integration on chip. In addition, while many digital ICs are being designed on the lower FinFET nodes for obvious reasons, many analog functions are still being implemented on the larger nodes, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes because they are trapped there. That is, they are not available on the lower nodes. However, whether on bulk or FinFET processes, the needs for analog IP is increasing. In addition, the desire to take advantage of the many new process variants on a node is becoming important. If the business case is solid for you to move a process to a process variant, you don't want your design to be locked on an older variant or node just because the analog IP you use successfully is not available on that new variant process. Similarly, IP that does exist there might not be what you need, either by a small or a large margin. Why should you have to compromise your design to use a generic IP because it is the closest available to what you need on that process? You need the IP your design demands, designed exactly to your specification on the process that makes business sense for your product. Agile Analog makes sure it is available. As for the how, well, most of the how of what we do is invisible to our customers. The results are what brings the benefit, so it's worth looking at what we do. There are three main facets to our methodology. Firstly, as you can see, an expert analog team. Secondly, an equally expert software team. And finally, a group of people that know how analog IP should be verified, documented, delivered, tested, and supported. In our analog group, Agile Analog has extensive analog expertise born of many successful designs, from building blocks through to 128 gigasample per second ADCs and SerDes, and hundreds of tape outs. We have distilled the best of analog design in an increasing portfolio of proven analog architectures. For each family of functions, we have coded the architecture and the hints and tips our experts use to implement specifications. Our software team have taken those best practices and developed that design intent into a highly automated system that removes the scope for human error from this process by applying the automation in the design, verification, layout, packaging, and delivery phases. Finally, what we deliver is as our customers have told us they want it, removing issues they have seen before, such as pinouts not matching the .left file, inconsistent files, and regressions across the evolution of a design. Our aim is, from spec discussions through to test and integration guides, to answer our customers' questions before they have asked them. The result is a no-compromise analog IP designed, verified, and delivered in weeks to your exact specification. In a visualization, we take the customer's requirements as a detailed specification, the appropriate architecture we've developed for that type of IP, our design recipe, if you like, the exact PDK you'll be using, and the best of what our EDA partners provide in terms of tools. They are spending billions of dollars in developing these, and we overlay our expertise and development on theirs. What Agile Analog delivers is all the data required to take a well-specified IP successfully through tape-out as part of your SoC. It is worth pointing out that Agile Analog is an IP provider. That is, we provide IP. We do not sell our system for external use. That said, we've been asked to consider giving external web-based access to our design and verification front end to allow customers to explore the design space of their IP themselves before committing the design to layout. Maybe something for the future. Why the automation? Well, for a number of reasons. It allows us to generate customized IPs to your exact specification, not just providing generic analog IPs, and to make any required modifications to the design or map it to a new process very quickly. The process also builds on human expertise but removes the human element from the boring and repetitive parts of the flow. We don't ask our team to generate an LDO or an ADC for the 1,000th time. They are building new architectures for our system to utilize. Our system does the generation and the verification, and it thereby generates more verified and verifiable IP that is robust and is reliable. Analog IP has too long been the problem area for integration, not because the teams that designed it did not know how to design, but mainly due to human issues in the process. Our system has been optimized to apply human expertise while almost also making systematic and deterministic those elements that can be automated. We've removed the errors that occur when you ask a person to repeat a task too many times, or ask a team, for example, to port a design when they did not know the original team's design intent. And as a final check, we still have an expert analog engineer review and sign off on each and every deliverable. In terms of deliverables, our IP comes with all the data and the consistency and quality you would expect to allow us to be sure that what you are getting is what you actually need. But more than just the data, we also allow our customers the flexibility they need in the faces of changes demanded, for example, by spec modifications to their own or third-party IP, or changes to the SoC's layout. This is not just a deliver and forget process for us. We actually deliver in two phases. These deliverables are part of the contract between Agile and our customers, along with the precise delivery timeframes. The first products of our development to a customer are delivered in the IDP, or initial delivery package, as you can see here. This includes a very detailed datasheet and design report, Verilog and Verilog A models to allow you to simulate the IP in the context of your system, the initial .lef and a test and integration guide for those customers who want it. This allows customers to start their chip development and for them to confirm their specified IP design meets their needs. After your team has verified the functionality, area, aspect ratio, power, and other factors are exactly what you require, we then undertake the layout and deliver the FDP, as you can see here, or the final delivery package. This is a superset of the IDP with the extracted simulation results, updated data sheets, and the GDS, CDL, and final .lef. This allows the customer to complete the SoC development and tape out. But even at this point, if anything changes in your design, we can still modify our IP very quickly to help you adapt to these changes. We aim to be the most flexible part of your team. The benefits we provide to our customers are not just in providing the IP, but also in the deployment of their own resources. When a customer asks if we can deliver an analog IP, we generally explore what else they will need for their design. That is, to separate their analog needs into the more standard analog IP and the custom differentiating IP that their team want to work on and that they must have for that product. By passing the design and verification of the more standard analog to Agile Analog, you can use your in-house analog experts on the cutting-edge differentiating IP that makes the difference to your product. We can help your team specify this standard analog, such as ADCs, DACs, LDOs, and the like, and they will verify the goods inwards when we deliver to them. Our deliveries are consistent in terms of quality and documentation and alignment with their specifications and, for example, their pin naming standards, so that the goods inward check is really reduced to a minimum. We are not here to replace your analog team, but to add additional resources to that team, developing and delivering analog IP as you want it. Our current analog IP portfolio has many families of generally released IP, plus many developed with and for customers that may also be available soon. Remember, behind each of these architectures are effectively thousands of variations depending on your voltage, power, I/O, speed, resolution, and other requirements. Customers asking for one IP are perhaps missing the point of Agile, or we're not making it well enough. We aim to provide most of your standard analog IP needs. Remember, our portfolio is not just one size fits all. We custom configure to your exact specification the functionality you need, meaning no redundant functionality, reducing the area and power to the minimum, shaping the IP to the area and aspect ratio your SoC demands. And we can also assemble these functions into more complex subsystems, such as the side channel attack monitor security core that you see here, and many other subsystems. This slide shows an excellent example of Agile's value to a design team with too much to do for their internal resourcing. Here, the customer decided their analog expertise and resource was best spent on the analog front end of their RF transceiver. They asked us to provide all of the power management, the built-in self-test, BIST, and auxiliary functions, plus the baseband, ADCs, and DACs, allowing them to focus on the critical areas and system integration and validation. This was a very successful development, both in terms of the IP delivered and the freeing up of the internal team to allow them to focus on what was needed of them. As you've seen, we provide analog IP to specifications fast. This process is indeed speeding up with the aim of delivering IP in a few weeks with ultra-fast service when required. Our system runs in the cloud and we can throw more servers and licenses at a task when needed. In licensing our IP, we provide again the freedom and flexibility we have been told by customers they would like to have available to use. For example, our IP can be licensed with or without royalty for a single use or multiple use, on one SoC or used in multiple SoCs, and on one process or for SoCs on multiple processes. You need never miss a new process's benefits for lack of suitable standard analog IP again. Finally, we believe we own the responsibility for our IP from specification through design and verification, layout, your integration with the rest of your SoC and into production. We provide support through to production test and beyond. While every SoC is different, the main stages of development are pretty consistent. Here we show where our deliverables are usually provided, following contract agreement and specification discussions. Here's the IDP, here's the FDP. One thing is clear, the sooner we can discuss your analog IP needs, the better, especially if considering derivatives of your design implemented on a different process or processes to the initial SoC or test chip. As a company, Agile Analog is very solid. He's delivering to many customers and he's very well funded. And this year, in fact, we will be doubling our engineering team. While young as a company, we have some very experienced heads in our leadership team. For example, Tim Ramsdale, our CEO, has run engineering teams and business units of up to 750 people for ARM and Broadcom. He's one of the most technically capable CEOs you will find. Mike Hulse is our CTO, founder, and the father of our methodology. It is on the secret sauce he envisaged and developed that Agile Analog is based. And we've got further experience provided, for example, by two guys you might recognize as previously two major competitors in the processor and graphics space. We have Peter Hutton, previously president of ARM's IP divisions, and Sir Hussein Yossai, who many of you will know as the ex-CEO of Imagination Technologies. So there is a lot of experience directing how we develop and deliver our products. As you've seen, Agile in both engineering and operations areas has experience going back over many years and products. Our team has designed for many different types of process, from CMOS, FD-SOI, through BCD and into FinFET down to 7 nanometer. In review, we provide an increasing range of analog IP in multiple configurations as your team would like it delivered. We do so quickly to committed timeframes, and we will only have a positive impact on your time to market. We allow you to integrate analog functions as you would previously have left off chip as discrete components, saving you both BOM cost and area and power. What we provide is delivered to make integration easy, consistent to your naming conventions, adapting to your SoC's needs, and reducing the demands on your own engineering team, as we've seen. You'll hear a lot more about Agile over the coming months. We aim to make a significant positive difference to the access and flexibility in use of analog IP. Come and talk to us at Semiconductor 360. Indeed, as I've noted, Agile Analog is growing significantly this year, and we have just signed with 2 major partners to help us provide representation across Europe and Japan. They are respectively Red Tree Solutions for sales support across Europe, and Ryoden Corporation providing local sales and technical support to our Japanese customers. As we're here in Israel, I will note people here will undoubtedly know Zohar and Shemai as the local Red Tree Solutions representatives. If we do have Japanese attendees here today or viewing this later, please contact Tanaka-san at Ryoden. Of course, you can also come directly to us at Agile Analog, via sales at Agile Analog, our website, or to any of us via Semiconductor 360 site or LinkedIn. We look forward to talking with you and providing analog IP as you want it. Thank you.